Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to take an existing component and tailor it to our specific project, and then we're going to talk briefly about end conditions and how to test those. And finally, we're going to take those custom components that we put together and create a project-specific template and test that out. So let's get started. Now what I want to do is I want to modify this pre-made component slightly to make it more appropriate for this project. So I'm going to double click on it to make it the active edited template here, and I'm going to add some of that curb and gutter that we copied over, and I'm going to pick curb and gutter type 3, and again I single click. I see it in the dialog there. There's my origin point, so I'm going to drag and drop right there to my shoulder. We've done this before, so this should be pretty easy for you. Again, just make sure that those points merge. You get the color change there. And then what I want to do is add a sidewalk on the back of my curb with this buffer. So I'm going to select that component, drag it over, and drop it into place. And finally, we're going to come over to our end conditions, and we're going to pick a cut and fill for slope. We haven't talked too much about end conditions at this point, and again I'm going to make sure it drops right onto that buffer point and merges. We haven't talked too much about end conditions yet, and what they do typically, and I'm going to turn off the point names here, is take our components for pavements and sidewalks and all that stuff that's going to be drawn and ties it into the existing ground. So you'll see it kind of looks a little confusing when you first look at these, and the best way to kind of visualize how they operate is to go ahead and see them in action. And the way to do that is to come down here and click the test button, and this brings up a new window, and you can see that we have the cut and fill components there, but they're all kind of dashed and not displayed. And the reason they're not displayed is because an end condition component must find its target. If it doesn't find its target, then it doesn't draw. So what is that target, you ask? Well, over here in the dialog, we have available targets, and this will list whatever these end conditions have been programmed to locate. So in this case, they've all been programmed to locate the active terrain model, so we need to test that. Below that is a surface slope dialog, and I just suggest changing this somewhere between 3 and 5%. You don't want it at 0 because you might not notice some problem areas. Finally, we're going to click this draw button, and what that does is draws that active template at that slope and attaches it to our cursor. And now you can kind of visualize that if the existing ground goes here, our slope modifies it to fit those existing conditions. It goes out at a shallow slope to a certain distance. If it can't hit the existing ground, then it goes to the next steepest slope to a set distance and drops down to the third, and finally the fourth choice. So you can see as your template would travel throughout your project and the existing ground changes, your template automatically modifies itself to adapt to those conditions. If you want to learn more about template end conditions, then check out our other courses. So at this point, we've got a nice little template component pre-made and customized for this particular project. And now what we want to do is create the actual template that we're going to push down our corridor. So again, I'm going to come over to Project Templates, right-click, and say New Template. And this is simply going to be our 2-lane urban template. Now I want to single click on our 2-lane right here, and I'm going to bring up the dynamic settings box. Make sure that this is set to 0.1 again, if it isn't already. And finally, we're going to toggle on the apply affixes this time, and we'll see what effect that has here in a second. So now I'm going to single click and hold the 2-lane urban right, and as I drag that over, I am going to tap the right mouse button. Just click it once, and you'll notice when I do that, a menu pops up. Now as soon as that menu pops up, go ahead and take your finger off the left mouse button. It's okay to do that now. You won't drop the template wherever your cursor was. What I want to do is left click or select the mirror option. You can also use the hotkeys. And you'll notice once I do that, now the template or that component has been mirrored around that axis of that cursor. Also, in the bottom right hand, the mirror has unghosted to let you know that the mirror toggle is active. So now what I want to do is zoom in here until I see my points snap in at 0, 0, and again you can read the coordinate value there to make sure that that's where they end up. And I left click to place the template now. So after you've right clicked and had the mirror going, you have to left click or data point then to anchor that template. So I'm going to do a quick fit and you can see the results. So that quickly, we've created a custom template customized for this project. So what did this apply affixes do? I'm going to toggle back on the display point names, and now you'll notice that the points to the left have been prefixed with an LT underbar, and the points to the right have been prefixed with an RT underbar. Later on, when we're working with this template in our corridor, doing point controls or something like that, this will make it much more intuitive as to what point we're working with. So it's always a good idea to take the time to label your points or to use the Apply Affixes toggle. In the last video, we're going to take this template and modify it even further to our project requirements. To sum up, components can be further customized and modified. Don't reinvent the wheel. And finally, end conditions are used to tie your pavement to existing ground typically. For more information, I suggest you look into other specific courses for end conditions. Thank you for watching.